Hello good people of YouTube and welcome to my hobby channel. In this video I was going to look at kit bashing some old world Empire great swords and maybe some old world Empire archers. But then I managed to pick up a box of Wargames Atlantic Conquistadors and these guys, which I've been after for a while. The Landsknecht or Landsknecht Ogres, depending on how you like to pronounce them. That got me thinking, time for another Estalia kit bash. So I grabbed hold of the Conquistador cavalry and the heavy Renaissance cavalry, which I featured in my previous Estalia video. I also had the starter army from Warlord Games handy, because that was going to provide me with a proxy for my great swords, my historical wargaming project. And then I started rummaging around looking at some of the ogres that I have in my collection. And I kind of got slightly distracted. So now I'm going to clean off my hobby desk, take a quick look at these guys here before I do an unboxing of the Conquistadors and build some more Empire. So before we get stuck into some Wargames Atlantic goodness, I just wanted to show you these guys. Now, this is a warband of dwarves, Imperial dwarves that I sculpted for the Battleforge. These were painted by a chap called David Marks to feature in my modelling and painting fantasy figures book. And the reason that I want to show you these very quickly is not only because the dwarves have that kind of Imperial flavour to them, and I think this one here, if I can pull him out, he actually has a Conquistador style helmet there. And I'm thinking either about creating a unit of Imperial dwarves to field as allies with all these different flavours of Empire that I'm working on, or even creating a couple of Estalia units to feature in my Empire army and sprinkle them with a few dwarves. And this is the modelling and painting fantasy figures book, which hopefully many of you will now be familiar with. I know some of you have even been kind enough to go out and purchase a copy of this book for yourself, which I really do appreciate. You can get that direct from the publisher's website, Crowwood, and it's a Crowwood wargaming guide. I will stick a link in the description as well for this book, and also the science fiction book that I did as well, for those of you who might be interested. And here we have some pictures of the dwarves in a section on hair, and they also reappear again in a section on basing miniatures, this time for warbands, at the end of my book. And for anyone who might be interested, I also did some halflings with a Renaissance flavour to them. Again, these are Imperial halflings that I sculpted for the Battleforge. They are still available, and I'm in the process of rebasing and refreshing the paintwork on some of these so that I can create a unit of halflings for my old world Empire army. But as I said earlier, the focus for this video is turning some Wargames Atlantic Conquistadors into Empire Estalia and building a couple of ogres to go with them. Okay, so we'll start with the Conquistadors. And there's a stack of sprues. So we get 2 different sprues in the Conquistador infantry box, and you get 4 of each sprue. And if we start with a large sprue, you've got 6 different bodies in quilted fabric and leather armour. They've got a very nice Empire Renaissance vibe to them. And I'm actually quite excited by these because I think scale-wise they're probably pretty close to the GW plastics. On the same sprue, there are loads of heads. There's a drum for a musician, there's crossbows, different shield designs, lots of weapon hands including halberds. There are some guns. Spear there is actually a banner pole for the standard bearer. If we just take a closer look at some of the faces, you can see the kind of detail that we're getting on these plastics. Very nice. And then there's these heads on the other side as well. So if you're looking to build Empire Estalia, then I think these are the boys to go to. And then on the smaller sprue here, we have extra heads and weapon arms. Some will be familiar to historical wargamers. There are pikes or spears here. Poses and flavours are very similar to, you know, Warlord and Perry miniatures, so I think they'll fit in nicely. I've just taken a cursory glance through these sprues and counted 27 heads. So if you use 6 when you're building the bodies, you're still going to have about 21 heads left over for kit bashing, which is absolutely fantastic. And that's a quarter of what you get in the box. So if we round it down to 20, that's 80 spare heads that are going to be left over after building this unit of 24 miniatures. Right, I'm going to build this as quickly as I can because with my current health issues, I'm struggling to sit or stand for longer than a couple of minutes. Pick that one there. Have a go at creating a standard bearer. Try that one there. So this will just be a quick vanilla build. Let's have a go at gluing standard bearer. Dab of glue on the hand. A little bit of glue on the head. That's all right. I can live with that, but it does look a bit, just trying to position that head. One Estalia standard bearer. Wargames Atlantic, Conquistador, infantry, straight from the box. I reckon if you bought 2 boxes, you could probably do a unit of 28 pikes or spearmen or halberdiers or whatever you fancied, and then 2 units of 10, or detachments rather, of 10 either handgunners or crossbowmen or something, or even spears if you went for halberds in your main unit. And the other box I wanted to look at in this video was the Landsknecht or Landsknecht Ogres. It's a similar story to the Conquistador sprues that I've just looked at. There are 2 different types of sprues in the box, and there are 3 of each sprue. So basically you can see there are 3 bodies, so you get 9 bodies in a box, which is pretty good value. I think you only get 4 or 6 if you're buying a Games Workshop box of Ogres, although they are admittedly a different design. But yeah, you get 9 Ogres and extra sprues containing more weapon choices, and these are absolutely packed with a variety of different things. Okay, so the sprue containing the bodies is quite an interesting mixture of things, because of course we've got some fantasy weapons and we've got some sort of sci-fi weapons and bits and pieces that can be used to modernize these ogres. Now the bodies, I thought possibly I could magnetize the breastplates, but I've had a closer look and they are numbered, so the 3 different bodies are slightly different shapes, and there's a corresponding breastplate for each one of the bodies, so they're not interchangeable, but I don't really think that matters because everything else is. Again, there are lots of heads. There's a variety here facing different ways, so I'll just spin the sprue round, but here there's one there in a mask, like an executioner's mask, And then on the other side, we've got various grumpy looking ogres. You can see the stitching on the back of the executioner's mask. That's a pretty cool head, that one. And then you can see it here, we've got, I'll zoom in, we've got some cigar chewing, modern kind of army general type, or perhaps a hero of fortune there. Beardy ogres, and some in medieval helmets. I mean, these guys are awesome. And up at the other end, we've got some Conquistador type helmets, and we've also got some rope chewers there, which these are obviously the wicks that are used to light the cannons, which are these guns here. There's a couple of those that I've seen on this sprue, one on the other side there. And then, of course, there's quite a lot of sci-fi. Now, I'm not going to linger on this in this particular video, because I am focusing on fantasy and Estalia, or Dogs of War, Pirazzo's Lost Legions. But I will be doing a separate ogre video, and I'll look at all of these again. And that will be covering both fantasy ogres and ogrins, or sci-fi ogres. There's also another head tucked in there. And then we've got lots of weapon arms. There's loads to choose from. There's some sort of classic Marauder looking weapons there. Some smaller bits and pieces. There's hand grenades and bullet cases. I mean, it is teeming with choice, which is excellent, and various different arms there as well. And then if we look at the additional arms and weapons, again, there's more heads. There's just a nice spear flagon there. But some of these heads are geared up towards a kind of World War II feel, or sci-fi. I mean, that, to me, I'm thinking Cadian possibly. Or I think there was Valhallan when I was into 40k, which had a kind of Russian look about them. Imperial Guard, but they would make really nice sci-fi models. Those you've got short Mohican there, which is kind of your obligatory Blood Bowl look. Another one here as well, and I will, of course, be building some of these for Necromunda as well, because I have an unopened box of Necromunda, which I will be diving into. Right, we've got some Landsknecht style hats there, and some separate feathers. I hope you can see those. Various pouches as well, and then hand grenades thrown into the middle of all of that. Right, we've got some pistols with nice wooden handles there. Various arm choices. There's a top of a halberd there, which I think can be used to convert a banner pole into a weapon. There's more sort of guns made from cannons. And then there's a shotgun there, which would be cool for Necromunda or 40k. And then there's a club and some daggers and a shield. So I hope pistol arms there as well. I hope that covers most of it. There's the spear as well, so there is this additional weapon arm here, which gives you an option. Now I'm going to build one of these in this video. Well, if I'm honest, I'll probably build all three, and I'll give one a very traditional Empire look. I will give the other a Estalia or Conquistador look, and then I might even build a Necromunda sci-fi one. The only thing that I'm not 100% sold on is the fact that these bodies here have all the pleated fabric and the ruffles and everything, and that's somehow supposed to work in sci-fi. I'm not sure. Personally, I would probably look at buying another box if I was going to be seriously doing some, 40k kit bashing and conversions, and I would be filling those ruffles with green stuff to make cargo pants. But anyway, that's just my own personal choice on aesthetics still. That is an awesome selection. And again, I think I counted 21 heads across these two sprues, which means when you've used 3, you've still got something like 18 left over for kit bashing or converting other models if you wish. Now I'm going to look at magnetizing the heads and some of the weapon arms so that I can field 6 ogres with a different flavor depending on what army I'm bringing to the table, whether that's a Dogs of War, or whether it's a historical army, or whether it's something for Warhammer the Old World. So, time to get the clippers out and some glue. Okay, and very quickly, so cut the feet off. There we go. And that was, didn't check what, 1A, so I'm going to want 1B to fit that. There we are. Just bring in the human for a scale comparison or size comparison before we go ahead and build. That's nice. So these are nice models, great kits. Right, I'm going to take this head here for the purposes of this video. So this is R2, right, so I probably want L2. So this is how I'll make sure the polarity is correct, using the body and a stack of magnets. Bit of super glue. Knowing that the polarity is correct for an attraction, I'll just pop the one magnet in that hole. There we go. Wipe the excess glue with a bit of tissue. Repeat that process on the other arm before I glue the wrist to it. So same again on the other arm. Check the polarity. Okay, so I've got both shoulders magnetized there. I can now glue that hand in place. Right. I'm going to let that dry before I try and remove those. Had a quick look at the head, and I need to come in at the bottom of the neck there at a slight angle. So, and I'm going to do that off camera. Okay, so I've just widened that with a drill bit. I now know that that magnet will attract if it goes into the head that way. And then I can seal it all in with a bit of green stuff if I need to restore the shape of the neck to get a good fit. So again, gets messy. I'm going to try my luck with that. There we go. Bish bosh. That'll do. So I'm happy with that. And also the only reason I'm doing this obviously is because I want to make variants of these ogres. I don't have the luxury of manufacturers like Wargames Atlantic or Warlord or even Games Workshop showering me with free samples and previews of their models. I'm just small fry at this stage, and whilst I would love to buy 6 boxes of Ogres and do every variation under the sun, that's not going to happen. So I bought 1 box and I am magnetizing the parts so that I can do these videos. Still don't think that's dry enough yet, but I'll come back to that later. Okay, so here's the Conquistador standard bearer that I've built straight out of the box, and I'm now going to place him with a group of other Conquistadors that I've built. I've started to build a unit here because I just wanted to show you more or less the front rank that I have in mind. Now, I'll probably end up basing each of these on a 20 by 20 mil base. And that's because not only am I hoping to use these figures in my Nevermind the Bill Hooks Fantasia sort of historical and fantasy mashup, in which case I will need to get them onto multi-bases like these Landsknecht from Warlord Games that I built and featured in a previous video, and you can see there's some Conquistador heads that I've put on those guys from the cavalry boxes just to give them that Estalia vibe. But if I glue them onto a multi-base like this, then that's it. I can only use them in that game. I probably want to use these guys as proxies in Warhammer the Old World for Estalia. And I've got this idea of doing basically a unit of 24 or 28 pikes. Then I'm going to run 2 detachments alongside of those. Now here I've built another Conquistador as a crossbowman, so I'm thinking I could either run a detachment of 10 crossbowmen or 10 handgunners from Estalia by using the appropriate parts from the Wargames Atlantic box to make those. I could also potentially make some great swords. Again, here's another Conquistador from Wargames Atlantic that I've built straight from the box, and that makes a fantastic Estalia great sword. But I'm also looking at the possibility of running the pike block as Pirazzo's Lost Legion, and that's a Regiment of Renown or Dogs of War regiment. And here I've got an example of, I think it's one of Braganza's besiegers. Now I've got a unit of 25 of these that I've just recently acquired, and I don't want to have to rebase them all. I don't even want to repaint them. I'm just going to do some highlighting and a little bit of glazing and washing with some varnishes and inks and various other bits and pieces, just to perhaps make some of the elements pop. I will be using my normal Vallejo earth texture paint over the base there to create the idea of sort of sand or soil. And if I use these in the old world, then I'm going to put them in a movement tray with the appropriate spacers to give me the frontage that they would have if they were on 25mm bases. But I want to retain their integrity as old Dogs of War miniatures, because I still play 3rd edition Warhammer as well. So sometimes it's nice just to kind of have a game the way that I used to play in my teenage years. So I'm not going to butcher those, and therefore, if I'm kit bashing some Estalia, I want them to fit. And scale-wise, I think these Wargames Atlantic plastics are a pretty close fit to the old sculpts from Games Workshop, the kind of miniatures that they use between sort of 1988 and 1999. Most of them were sculpted by the Perrys, so they still fit quite well with historical miniatures. And I'll just bring in here Right, that's a Perry mercenary pikeman there again, which I've kit bashed a Conquistador head on to give it that Estalia vibe. I'll just elevate it so it's the same height, and as you can see, that's a pretty good fit as well. So in terms of building a Dogs of War army and using some proxy plastic miniatures to create some of the human units that I can't get hold of. Obviously, I don't want to break my wallet chasing other rare Dogs of War units when I've got quite a sizable collection already. I'd rather use some proxies until I find other stuff that that fits. So here I've done a quick lineup of the Wargames Atlantic Conquistador pikeman in the centre of the picture there. On the right hand side there's a Perry mercenary from Wars of the Roses era of medieval box sets that they do. And on the left hand side, that's a Landsknecht or Landsknecht from Warlord Games and their pike and shot Italian Wars 1495 to 1559. So I just wanted to show you there that from the point of view of historical miniatures, they go together quite nicely. Okay, so there's a handgunner from Empire of Man, Old World Empire of Man, and I've put that next to the Wargames Atlantic Conquistador. And again, although the head is a little bit smaller than the GW plastic heads that you get, height-wise, scale-wise, I don't have a problem with using those Wargames Atlantic miniatures as a proxy. They do tend to carry themselves a little bit better than some of the Perrys, which tend to be a taller and more slender build, but they work really well, I think, for the Old World. Okay, if we stand him next to a Frostgrave Ghost Archipelago crewman built straight from the box, again you can see that's pretty good size wise. It works well, and I wouldn't have any problems kit bashing a mix of Frostgrave and Wargames Atlantic and Warhammer Old World plastics to achieve what I wanted with a warband, or you know, something for Mordheim, or just to spice up my Old World Empire armies. That I wanted to bring in was an old plastic Bretonnian archer, which you can see is a bit bigger and a bit chunkier. If I just move him to one side and bring in the peasant levy that I kit bashed in my previous video. Again, he's got a Bretonnian head, that one, and size wise they're pretty good, because obviously they're both made by Wargames Atlantic, but the peasant levy there, they're coming in at a good size. Quickly just bring in that one that I gave a Fireforge medieval sergeant's head to, and that works. So I think there's heaps of potential, and the reason that I'm showing you the peasant levy is because I kit bashed this Conquistador using a peasant levy body. And if we just take a closer look at him, I still need to clean up the edges of the shield a little. I built this figure after doing a little bit of research on the internet, where I was able to find that there were some Conquistadors that were more poorly dressed than those in plate armor. So it's not unusual to stumble across the odd illustration where they've got the sort of Spanish Conquistador helmet, but then they're wearing padded tunics and chainmail, and there's no sign of any of the puffy sleeves, or you know, or elaborate fabric on the legs or the arms. So I think this offers some interesting opportunities for making Estalia light infantry perhaps, or some Conquistadors that are not so well armed and equipped. So that's why I've introduced the peasant levy into this video. Now obviously I've got the crossbowman that I've shown you, and also the Conquistador with this two-handed sword, which I've shown you as a potential great sword for Estalia. And I will be looking at those two again in later videos when I open the Empire Greatswords and Empire Archers boxes, and we have a look at the detachments and the units that you can make from those. So that's a brief overview. What I do want to show you here quickly before I move on to the next and final part of this video is to just bring out some Fireforge. Let's just move them to there so that you can see scale wise that they work really well. So if you're using Fireforge as proxy Bretonnians, then these work really well here as Estalia or Pirazzo's Lost Legion for Dogs of War. And obviously there's another multi-base that I made with mostly Warlord miniatures and a few head swaps at the back. Again, scale is fantastic. So if you're thinking of getting the Landsknecht starter army from Warlord, you can mix and kit bash that with the Conquistadors and probably make the whole army go a lot further. And then finally, I just want to squeeze in some Peris. I know this isn't the normal lineup that I do in my other videos, but hopefully you can get the gist anyway. I'm actually rushing this video a tiny bit because I'm in a lot of pain, but that is what it is. I have seen, as I said, some Conquistadors with the kind of clothing that we see here. So there's a possibility of potentially doing some head swaps with these Perry plastics. Now these are all from the Agincourt range, the French and the British sort of men-at-arms from that range. But if you wanted to put together a band of Conquistadors that were very poorly equipped, then those Perry bodies offer some interesting opportunities. I've not done that yet, but I might do for a future video. Returning to this little huddle that I've got here, the last thing I wanted to do was just drop in some Landsknecht or Landsknecht Ogres, depending on your preferred pronunciation. I've built 3 of these so far, and you'll have seen from the previous clips in this video that I've actually magnetized these. Now, I'm not proposing that you go to the trouble and the effort, because it really is a fiddly thing to do, but obviously, as I said earlier in the video, I'm not the beneficiary of free samples or sponsorships from any manufacturer. All the stuff that I show you on my videos, if it's not the odd thing that was left over from when I was writing my books, then I've had to go out and buy it. But I'm very excited about these Ogres. I only bought 1 box, and I may have said earlier that there are 9 Ogres in a Wargames Atlantic box of Landsknecht or Landsknecht Ogres. And that's the box there, so you get 9 Ogres in that. And there are loads of heads and weapons and so on. So I magnetized mine because obviously if we take an ogre like that, for example, he's got his Estalia Conquistador style helmet on, which is brilliant. I do love this, but obviously get rid of that head. And if I wanted to make him, you know, more traditionally kind of Empire and look like the sort of Marauder ogres that you can get in metal, whoops, then that's why I've decided to magnetize these, so I can feature these in different videos. I can swap the weapons as well. Put this head back on because he's holding the wick to light his musket or his cannon. But I love that model, and I think if I drop him in behind, not only would he work well as a proxy ogre for Warhammer the Old World, he would also work as an ogre in amongst my historical armies when I get round to assembling those for, never mind the billhooks. Now I do very quickly want to show you this one, because this one I've kit bashed with some GW Ogre parts. So the pistol is from Ogre Kingdoms box, as to is this rather nasty looking sword. I'm just going to take the arms off, and I'm doing this one-handed again. Right, excuse the camera shake, but as I said, I'm just trying to get through this video. Right, so if we put that arm there, these are the arms with the weapons as they come from the box, the Wargames Atlantic Ogre box, and dropping him in there. Very respectable they are too. I mean, that is just lovely. Absolutely love those. But I couldn't magnetize these ogres without doing some kit bash GW options, and I will be featuring this ogre and the other ogres in a future video, which I hope to do very soon. And again, all magnetized, so I can swap these out. I'm just trying to do it with one hand, which isn't advisable. I actually drilled through the arm there accidentally, so I'll use a bit of green stuff to repair that. I will also use green stuff just to tidy up the joints and help the arm sit in a better position. But as I said before, and I am getting quite tired now, as I said before, I've only magnetized these ogres so that I can feature them in my videos, and every time I want to demonstrate a different variation, I don't have to go out and buy another box. So that is my slightly disjointed and clumsy look at Wargames Atlantic's Conquistadors and how you can use them as Proxy Estalia, or Pirazzo's Lost Legions from Dogs of War. As I may have said before, apologies that it's taken so long to get this video out. It really has felt like the video that didn't want to get made. I've had quite a lot to contend with, including health issues. Anyway, on a positive note, I'm booked in for surgery in the middle of March. So nevertheless, I did want to get this video done weeks ago. However, I have been lucky to get hold of a box of Wargames Atlantic Ogres and a couple of boxes of their Conquistadors, which I can now build into some nice proxy units for Dogs of War, Warhammer the Old World, and I'll be covering all that in further project videos, including how you can base them up so you can still use them in Nevermind the Bill Hooks, or Lion Rampant, or Black Powder, or Warhammer the Old World, and not have to keep buying the same box of miniatures over and over again every time you want to include them in a different gaming system. As ever, thanks ever so much for watching. The kindest thing you can do for me right now, if you've enjoyed this video, is to subscribe to my channel and smash that like button. It really does help. And yeah, if you've got any thoughts or comments, if you've built these models and enjoyed the experience, if there's anything you want to comment on, then please do pop it in a comment, but do remember to keep those comments polite and respectful. Apart from that, look after yourselves, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.